Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Unfiltered, the podcast that takes the mystery out of commercial real estate and makes it accessible for everyone. I'm Caleb David, a broker, investor, and community builder with over a decade of experience helping businesses and individuals bring their visions to life. Here we break down the market, share expert insights, and talk about the opportunities that commercial real estate creates for businesses and communities alike. No fluff, no gatekeeping, just real, unfiltered conversations that empower you to navigate the space with confidence. So whether you're an investor, a business owner, or simply curious about commercial real estate, welcome. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone, to Commercial Real Estate Unfiltered. I'm your host, Caleb David, and I am thrilled to have Shawn Massey here with us as our guest today. He's based out of Memphis, Tennessee, and we're going to talk a little bit about the retail world right now. We're going to dive into that, talk about COVID, how things have changed, what we're seeing happening in the market. And so, Shawn, welcome to the show. Please share a little bit about who you are, how you got here, and look forward to talking with you.
That'd be great. My name, as David said, Shawn Massey. I am a broker with the shopping center group, now known as TSCG, in the Memphis area. I cover the Mid-South, which includes Mississippi, Arkansas, and West Tennessee. I have been with the company for 23 years. I primarily do tenant rep and landlord rep work, but we do some investment sales, a lot of consulting lately, development consulting. So the whole gamut. When you're in a small market, you have to be a master of everything.
Yes.
And I consider myself a master of everything retail.
That's awesome. I look forward to hearing more about what you're seeing and historically what you've seen as far as trends. But right now, what are some of the retail activities going on? Are you seeing mostly nationals? Are you seeing local? What's the state of retail in your area?
It's really a kind of a dichotomy. From the national side, I see a lot of QSRs, single tenants that are super active, that are not related to construction cost of a multi-tenant building, that, hey, they're single, they can go in, they might be doing all cash, they're not interest rate sensitive as maybe somebody because they're building all cash. They're expanding. It's not the big boxes, it's not the grocery stores, but it's that little QSR, Raising Cane's, Whataburger,
Yeah.
In-N-Out, the whole gamut of there. And then on the other side, we do see, as we trended away from big boxes to smaller tenants, and in those multi-tenant existing spaces, we're seeing a lot of growth in local tenants, new concepts, people opening multiple concepts, whether it's a nail salon, massage studio, more restaurants that, hey, have worked in one suburb, let's move them to put a second one or a third or fourth in a different suburb. So it's a smaller tenant, not the big boxes, but it's both local tenants and national tenants that are driving growth. If we had more property, that's our biggest challenge is no supply.
Yeah, I completely relate to everything you just said. And what are you seeing happening? Are you seeing the big boxes moving out? Are they shutting down? Or what are you seeing and what's happening with those spaces as far as repurposing?
Sometimes as a broker, I like spaces closing because it provides me some inventory to lease.
Yeah.
It all depends where we're seeing, obviously, the Walgreens, the Rite Aids, the Dollar Generals, Family Dollars closing underperforming stores.
Yeah.
And that's creating some vacancy for us. It's not always in the best area.
Yeah.
Or if a Walgreens closed, it's hard for us to put any tenant in that would replace the rent that they were paying for a landlord. So there's that part of changing. We've gone through, you got some big lots and a couple other tenants that have bargain hunts and that have closed that are in basically C or C minus B, maybe B centers around town, but they're being replaced. We have a large center here in Memphis called Cross Creek Shopping Center, and we lost Cons, we lost a couple other tenants, and we replaced them with Fun City. So we got a family entertainment.
Yep.
We did a deal with Pickleball Kingdom.
Yep.
We're fortunate to have high enough ceilings and good column spacing. So what we're taking a center that was basically in a B minus trade area that's adjacent to a wonderful suburb of Memphis, and we're putting good family oriented retailers in that location.
Yeah.
In another way up at our major trade area is called Wolf Chase. They just finished the deal that we repurposed the old two-story Sears attached to the mall. And on the bottom, we brought in Primark department store out of the UK to
Okay.
take 50,000 on the lower floor, which is great that they came into Memphis. They liked that part. And on the second, we did another family entertainment with Lulu's Adventure Park.
Yeah.
So we're backfilling these with users that are looking for low cost space
Yep.
because they can't build a new building with that high ceiling and make the numbers work. Fortunately, we've been successful in backfilling the better spaces that have closed with good new type tenants and family entertainment centers, the arcades, the pickleball places. That's a trend that's really positive for centers. I'm trying to do a couple of dog bars and dog parks,
Yeah.
which are new. I'm
Yeah.
having trouble with the co-tenancy with some of the big nationals. Like, we don't want a dog, like a
Right.
dog boarding place and all that in there. And this is the trend
Yeah.
going on that like that all these dog places bring in people that are spending money and they have disposable income. If you own a pet and you're putting them up in a boarding or you go into a dog bar with $18 cocktails,
Yeah.
you've got money to spend.
Yeah.
And they could spend it in your stores.
Yeah.
Some of them work with us. Some of the nationals still haven't bought into the dog
Yeah.
thing yet.
I think there's definitely been a huge shift. And I agree with a lot of what you're saying. People are moving towards these more experiential type situations versus traditional retail. Obviously, it's still a retail space, but it's about the
Yeah.
gathering. And I wonder how much COVID has to do with that because we were isolated for so long. But what are some of the reasons, like the Dollar Generals and the Family Dollars and et cetera, like that? What do you think is driving their poor performance?
Sometimes opening too many stores.
Mm.
When we were rapidly expanding, they were opening stores wherever they could, close to others, and the market's only so deep. And then they also stopped being dollar stores. They started
Fair.
being a variety, like variety stores up to $5 or whatever. But I think they opened in a lot of locations. Some areas transitioned on them that are a little rougher. Some of the stores closing, it's not because they don't do sales
Right.
because they're not making profit because so much is going out the back door.
Yeah.
And but you take Dollar General, they're on two lists. They're ones closing the most stores, but they're also on the list of opening the most stores this year.
Wow.
I
Interesting.
mean, I think just trying to shift the stores to markets that they know will work.
Mm.
But I just think they opened a lot of stores really fast, not paying a lot of attention to the market. A lot of developers were like, hey, they've got great credit. Let's just open them up. And now they're closing stores. And the ones that are holding the bag are a lot of investors who went. Memphis is a great place to buy real estate because the yield is a little higher than the Gulf West Coast or East Coast.
Yeah.
But I've had California investors that have bought like dollar stores in Memphis. Now they're closing them and
Mm.
they're not in the greatest area and their property is worth one third of what they
Wow.
paid for it. So that's a challenge. And they're getting mad at me because I didn't sell them the property.
Right.
I'm just telling you what it's worth today.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely. And we
so
talked a little bit about growth before we jumped on the
well,
call, kind of what we're seeing in Colorado Springs, how by 2050 we're going to have a larger mass area of land than Denver. And a lot of that is there's a lot of land trying to be annexed into the city with housing developments, and we do see
mm,
retail
mm.
follow that. But that can be a little bit tricky too, right? It can be expensive, it can be risky. What's been your experience?
I'm glad you asked that question. I know we touched on it, Dave. Memphis is a city of about 650,000, okay, about the size of Denver. The MSA is 1,450,000, the county's 950,000. But we've been 650,000 since 1960s.
Oh, wow.
Okay. We've annexed more land. We're now 365 square miles. That's three times the size of Denver in land mass. But it sounded good, but all we were doing for politics for a while, we were losing population, so we annexed more population in it to stay
Mhm.
stable. But now we're having to provide infrastructure. We're
Right.
having to provide services. And if a city is not cautious about that,
Yeah.
they could end up bringing more land, annexing more things, but then they have to supply police officers and hospitals and schools. you got to be careful what you annex in and whether the cost, the long-term cost, not like the immediate sounds, hey, great population, our city just grew 6%, but you had no real growth. You just annexed more 6% more people into your city. You got to look at the long-term cost, and that affects everybody, the property values, retail, industrial,
Yeah.
along that line.
Absolutely. And I know that also labor costs have gone up across the board. But how does having qualified candidates for jobs, how does that play into the retail market? Obviously, Colorado Springs is very much of a tourist destination. So there is a lot of people in the service and
Mm.
retail industry
Yes.
and hospitality. But how do you think how important is it to have a qualified workforce?
We don't have a fully qualified workforce in several segments. We are lacking in the hospitality. We don't have enough people for the growth that we've taken in both hotel, retail sectors of good quality people. There are several people that want a paycheck, but they don't really want to work. So it's not, you have to be careful hiring them because is it going to hurt your business to have somebody bad in place?
Yeah.
And that, so we don't have, or they not showing the pension to work. Restaurants since COVID are finally got to a point where they're back to not, I say 95% staffing of where they were at COVID.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, I sit on the Memphis Restaurant Association board, so I talk to restaurateurs all the time, and they're saying like, hey, we're finally comfortable where we are. And that's more of the local
Mhm.
casual dining segments. The QSRs, we work with several national finding good qualified candidates here is really tough. But vice versa, we just had XAI build the largest supercomputer in Memphis.
Wow.
And one of the reasons they came to Memphis, besides cheap electricity, cheap water, no state income tax, was the fact that Memphis has the largest segment of African American tech workers in the United States.
Mm.
And they wanted that was a pool. And that's something that we do have a lot of people to fill in that segment of the XAIs, NVIDIA's moving here, Dell's putting a plant here in the future, we've been told. And so you got to look at it segment by segment. In the retail, we have a dearth of qualified workers or workers that want to work,
Yeah.
but there are certain segments where we do have a good workforce, and that's in tech
Yeah.
now.
And for the jobs that are harder to fill right now, like you said, the QSRs and
Uh,
such,
uh,
what are some potential solutions to source those
There's
people?
a there's a national coffee company. I won't say the name because they're a client of mine. They are by I say 2027 will go very much to robotics. They will go from 10 people per store to 4 people, everything else being robotics.
Wow.
And they don't have to fire anybody because they're always opening new stores and moving people around. So it's not like this mass layoff, but they had to find a solution. And that's, I think a lot of stores, like you go into a McDonald's now, you go to a
Yeah.
kiosk, you don't even, and then you just swipe your card and plug your order in. There's still people making the food in back, but every retailer has to adapt, especially the QSRs were on that part. And I think it's going to be technology, whether it's AI technology or robotics or something along that line, because we just don't have the workforce. And I hate to say it, like if as a government gets rid of more immigrant workforce and all that stuff, it's going to be a challenge to meet all the jobs,
Yeah.
especially the jobs that like in hospitality in a hotel, like the maids and the all that stuff. It's going to be tough to staff because those are the people that make our life comfortable, and that's a really challenge.
Yeah,
So
I fully agree. And I think it's very important for people to be as involved in government in whatever place they can be,
yeah,
to have their
yeah,
voices heard. And one of the things that I want to cover is obviously that how you saw retail shift in the COVID era. And I think speaking to your point in regards to the new McDonald's, I've got a brand new one near my
mm,
house. And I walked into the first time and I'm like, there's nobody. You don't see.
yeah. You
And
know,
I personally don't like that. That is just me. I like the experience of
yeah.
interaction.
Yeah.
But I kind of fear for what is that going to do to our children? This is what they're going to be used to. And it feels almost like a sense of
Uh,
isolation and
I've got a 14-year. I don't know if you have any kids,
uh,
but my for my 14-year-old, it's going to be easy transition because they're so used to looking at a damn screen anyway. It's like I like the interaction. Like I'm
yeah,
actually one of those people. I go into my bank every week.
yeah,
And just like people go like, why do you go to bank? You could do it online. You can drive through. I like to meet people. I like to interact and like people to know me,
yeah,
and that's that. So it's it's changing that whole sense. But what retailers have got to understand, it's easy to buy online, easy to drive through the drive-through. If you get too less people, the whole experience goes away. So
right.
why would we go? So
Yeah,
you talked about experimental retail. We have to give a reason
yes,
for people to come into the store and feel comfortable.
yeah,
Now, I have no problem ordering at my table, like off a
yeah,
QR code and more efficient and all that stuff. But I still like a waitress to come to me. I still like on that part. I still like somebody at Chick-fil-A for saying my pleasure. It makes it different. So it has changed since COVID because it, but at the same time, during COVID, made everybody realize how much they like to shop.
yeah,
Retail, I mean, there was, you call it revenge shopping, whatever. But since COVID till this year, I've had 4 record years
yeah,
of growth, number of deals, total volume of deals. Retail's been super strong for
mm,
us. And
yeah,
that it's different though. Prior to COVID, I was doing more apparel stores and shoe stores,
yeah,
and that now I'm doing more oil changes and QSRs. It's this exchange like that service and all that stuff. I think from apparel stores, I would worry because it's so easy to shop online. My wife can order 5 outfits, send 4 back or whatever. And but I like to eat out. I like to go to I like to interface with people, and that's what gets me out of my office or my
yeah,
house on that part on a pretty regular basis. It's changing, and the good thing about retail, it's always evolved. If you think about it, it went from a little general store where when you got your groceries, you went to a counter, and then I always bring that up because Memphis was the first self-service grocery store in the United States.
oh wow,
So with Piggly Wiggly, then you had from a general store to a main street to a town square to neo-traditional neighborhoods were thing, and then we came along with the malls and the big shopping centers and the box, and
yeah,
now we're back to mixed-use projects and a little bit more back to where it was like in the 1920s and type of shopping and looking for that experience with and being with people. And the retail not it's not only about the retail shopping, but it's also about the sense of place. We need gathering spaces. We need a human friendly, human centric type developments rather than big box and on that part. So it's changing, but retail from Amazon and everything has always adapted because I think people just like to shop.
yeah,
So it's just different because Amazon didn't kill us. They're one of the largest expanding retailers now. Then people said COVID would kill us and we never got, but then people revenge shopped. So I just, this whole technology thing, dealing with people and what type of retailers are in shopping centers
yeah,
will consistently evolve. And the ones that don't buy into it, like these department stores that don't want dog parks or dog friendly businesses in the same shopping center, are probably going to be a little archaic and go out of business because that's where the world's going.
yeah,
So.
absolutely. One of the things that I've seen a huge uptick in our market is event centers. Like I probably worked with 3 or 4 different event centers in the last 6 months that are wanting to create these spaces where they can do baby showers, they can do
Yeah.
birthday parties, and I've seen
I
that.
get I get 3 to 4 calls a week on event centers.
Wow.
You know, we have a large African American population about in the city, about 62%. In a lot of neighborhoods where you have little pockets of African American, older neighborhoods tend to be smaller houses. So when they love family gatherings,
Yeah.
but it's the houses are too small, so they love that 2 or 3 thousand square foot event center where they can have the baby shower, where they can have that anniversary dinner, and they're popping up everywhere and trying to find the right location that works for and at the right price because they don't generate the sales that a typical retailer might. But if you have a space that's like in the crotch of a shopping center or something,
Yep.
they're a great user.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to pivot a little bit here and talk a little about where we're at right now and what affects our tariffs, high interest rates, and high construction costs. How's that affecting new development?
I'll take the biggest challenge we have right now is still high construction costs. Okay, when construction costs go 35, 40% high, and where I could have built this one QSR for 750,000, now it costs me 1.2 to million four.
Yeah.
Real problem. That is our biggest problem because you have these high construction, we can't get the rents to justify it.
Yep.
Interest rates are not really, maybe I'm a contrarian to this. Interest rates are normal.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up when I started in the business. I've been in the business 40 years. Man, we had 19% interest rates. So then we went down to 3 and 4% interest rates, sitting around 6 and 7. And I'm a teacher at the University of Memphis. And all my students, I've never taught any of my students to underwrite a project at 4%.
Right.
I usually, if it's lower, I'll usually tell them it's 8%, or underwrite it at 8%. And if you can get a 6 or 7% mortgage, you're just a lot better off.
Yeah.
But I've never underwrite. So interest rates, I'm not as much on. It hurts the triple net market a little bit. Like people having to put more cash into a deal or versus we're leveraging out on it. Now tariffs, it's already hit us in our construction because like hardwood from Canada and different things. We are seeing some stores that have signed leases, canceling leases. And this is not as much in Memphis as when I talk to my other coworkers throughout the Southeast and the East Coast. We have stores that just can't, like I said, we're not opening because we can't get product. And it's supply chain, tariffs along that part. And it's a yo-yo. One week we have tariffs, next week we don't have tariffs. I'm Canadian, so I'm very sensitive to the
I love the
tariff.
Canadians. I love the Canadians.
I love the thought. Come on, we're your next door neighbor. We don't need tariffs, big tariffs between us. But it's just a lot of uncertainty. Like I said, I've come off 4 record years. 25, I don't. It could be an average year. It could be a good year. I just don't know yet. And we're halfway through the year now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's that uncertainty. It looks like construction costs have stabilized, but they stabilized. They're not coming down. They just stabilized. Interest rates, we don't know what's going to happen with the Fed chairman. That's the weekly battle today with the president is the Fed again. And tariffs, it's just hard. But I do think retail is resilient. We will adapt. It might take a little longer. Maybe 25 is a slow year and 26 and 27 are going to be booming years again as we find a way to adapt. But the industry is strong. The economy is strong. People have jobs. People seem to have money. They're still shopping and eating out. We have some of our Asian restaurants that bring in product overseas for their cooking in their restaurants are feeling a little pain right now because they can't get the product in.
Yeah.
So it's just a yo-yo right now. I like calm and stability and kumbaya and everybody loves each other type thing, and we're not there.
Yeah,
So
I agree. It's an uncomfortable place to be, but I think you're right. I think retail specifically is much more positioned to adapt than say the office market. And so we're seeing a little bit more activity this year, but it's been, at least in our market, the last 2.5 years has just been, it's been rough. We've seen 2022 was like best year we'd ever had. The next year is like half that, because people are feeling that uncertainty. They're not pulling the trigger. They want to open this daycare, but then they don't, then they come across what the build out costs are going to be, what the regional building requirements. I find a lot of people have been shying down a little bit from pulling the trigger, especially in the mom and pop area.
They go through it's the build out's just a lot costlier to get in there, and they've saved their life savings thinking this is what their franchise, especially this is what's going to cost you to open, and no, it's now 20% higher. And where do you get that money? And the banks are not the most lenient to leaning out for it. So we'll just have to see. I'm just hoping that resilience plays off, that our country adjusts to whatever it's going to be in the future in that part. And I think we're going to be fine. The great thing I love about Memphis is we're in the best position we've ever been in the last decade. We're at the end of the year chamber meeting. They referred to Memphis as the next Austin, which is really good because of our tech and companies moving over. It's the first time that we've ever had over 100 billion in regional GDP.
Wow.
Where affordability, like I know you're in Colorado, Memphis is really affordable. It's 89% of the average. We got housing. We never had booms, so our busts are very low. So we're poised really well if everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
And we do have some projects coming out of the ground. I applaud the developers that are willing to take the risk and saying, hey, let's do it now because it's not going to get cheaper. So let's pull the trigger.
Yeah, absolutely. As we wrap up, what are some things or tips that you might have, knowledge that you'd like to impart to our listeners, whether it be about the market, whether it be about getting into real estate, or even sharing a little bit about your teaching?
Okay, I'll get together. I've been teaching for 31 and a half years at the University of Memphis, which I added up the number of classes I've taught, and it would be 5.5 years of a full-time professor. As a full-time professor, I got into it at the request of a professor because we have a school our business school is named the Fogelman College of Business after a developer. Mm-hmm. So we did not have anybody that could teach anything on commercial. So I had a professor bring me in and teach, and I teach a real estate investment class, a real estate development class, which I love. But the thing I love is about mentoring people. I do a lot of mentoring to students. I have 9 former students that are clients of mine. Wow. Which I'm doing a large $25 million development with one of my former students. Wow. That's just not why I teach, but it's good karma coming along. Yeah. But from there, I'm now mentoring a lot of people that are entering the business. Mm-hmm. And I did a podcast for Realtors Land Institute, and some kid in Austin calls me and says, hey, I'm looking to get in the business. Can you help me? Yeah. So we've been negotiating and trying to give them questions that wants to get in the business. And that kind of led me to, if anybody wants to follow on LinkedIn, I have a blog called the CRE Professor, and I give a lot of advice to new young people that are coming into the business. 2 weeks ago, I published like 26 questions that you should ask your potential employer. Yeah. And then I give a lot of advice to new people in the business, and hey, you can't work from home. You need to go to the office, and different other things that should help them be a better broker or be more responsive, providing client services to their customers. Yeah. So
I love that. Well, thanks for doing that, because I think that's something that is very much lacking in our industry. Okay. Having that mentorship, having that. And so that's amazing.
But thank you for bringing me on, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll make sure that everybody knows where they can find you in the show notes. Okay. And we really appreciate your time and your insight and expertise. That's a wrap on this episode of Commercial Real Estate Unfiltered. I hope you found value in today's conversation and feel more confident about navigating the world of commercial real estate. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody who could benefit from these insights. You can connect with me, Caleb David, and the team at David Commercial Real Estate. Just check the show notes for more information. Thanks for listening, and remember, creating space is more than just real estate. It's about building community. See you next time.